The blaring sirens and red and blue lights painted the streets of Harlem in fractured colors as Detective Jason Mitchell stepped out of his unmarked police cruiser. Jason, a decorated black officer known for his sharp instincts and calm resolve, had spent years serving his city with pride. But tonight would test him in ways he'd never imagined. Before we dive into this intense story of justice and betrayal, let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. And if you love stories that challenge and inspire, hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. Jason had been on the force for nearly a decade, respected by most but tolerated by few, including Chief Frank Daniels. Daniels was old school, his leadership marred by a history of thinly veiled prejudice. "Mitchell," he'd say in that slow, condescending tone, "don't overstep, just stick to your lane." Tonight, Jason's lane led him straight to chaos. A prominent local businessman had been murdered in his home, execution style, with his safe looted and chaos left in the wake. The scene buzzed with forensics teams and uniformed officers. Jason's gut told him something wasn't right. "Mitchell," Chief Daniels barked, stepping into view. His voice was ice. "You're not lead on this one. Take a step back." Jason clenched his jaw. "With all due respect, Chief, I know the neighborhood. I can help." Daniels stared him down, his smile more a sneer. "That's not your call. Stay out of it." The other officers avoided Jason's gaze as Daniels turned and walked back to the scene. Something about his tone, the haste to remove Jason, gnawed at him. Why doesn't he want me here? Jason spent the next 2 days on his own, piecing together leads the precinct ignored. Witness reports, overlooked CCTV footage, and a name that came up repeatedly, Roy Calhoun, a known criminal and, interestingly, a close associate of Chief Daniels from years past. But here's where it got interesting. Jason uncovered financial records tying Daniels to questionable investments with Calhoun. The so-called robbery wasn't random, it was a cover-up gone wrong. Daniels wasn't just complicit, he'd orchestrated the entire crime. Jason's discovery wasn't just evidence, it was a ticking bomb. The following night, Jason was called into the precinct under a flimsy pretext. As he stepped inside, the tension hit him like a wall. Officers avoided his gaze. Chief Daniels stood at the far end, his smile sharp and cold. "Mitchell," Daniels said, his voice laced with false civility. "It's come to my attention you've been investigating where you don't belong." Jason met his gaze, unflinching. "I'm just doing my job." Daniels' smile vanished. "You're suspended. Effective immediately." Gasps rippled through the room. Jason stood still as stone. Suspended. For following the truth. He glanced around, searching for support, but found only silence. Daniels had everyone under his thumb. As Jason turned to leave, Daniels leaned in, his voice a low hiss. "You're not bigger than the badge, Mitchell. You'll stay quiet, or I'll bury you." Jason's eyes narrowed, his pulse steady. "The truth always comes out, Chief. Always." Hours later, Jason sat alone in his car, staring at the evidence on his phone. Photos, recordings, financial ties. It was all there, a damning case against Daniels. But how could he expose it when Daniels held all the power? That's when his phone buzzed. An anonymous text flashed on the screen. "Meet me at Pier 17, midnight. Trust no one." Jason's instincts screamed caution, but he couldn't ignore it. The pier was deserted, the air thick with mist as Jason stepped onto the creaking wooden planks. From the shadows emerged Officer Rachel Torres, one of the few colleagues Jason trusted. "Rachel?" Jason's brow furrowed. "You sent the text?" She nodded, eyes darting nervously. "Listen, Jason, I know what you found. Daniels is dirty. I've known for months, but no one would listen. I have the missing piece, a witness willing to testify." "Where is he?" Jason asked. Rachel's voice faltered. "He's in danger. Daniels knows we're close." Before Jason could respond, headlights cut through the fog and black SUVs screeched to a halt. Doors flew open. Officers in plain clothes poured out. Daniels' men. "Mitchell!" Daniels' voice rang out like thunder. "You just couldn't stay down, could you?" Rachel froze. Jason stepped in front of her, shielding her as Daniels emerged, his gun drawn. "You think you can take me down?" Daniels snarled. "This city doesn't care about you. You're just another face in the crowd." Jason's gaze stayed steady. "Then why are you so scared of me?" Daniels raised his gun, but before he could fire, a dozen squad cars roared onto the pier, their sirens deafening. Officers poured out, weapons trained on Daniels' men. At the front stood Captain Harris from Internal Affairs. "Drop your weapon, Daniels," Harris barked. Daniels' face paled. "What is this?" Jason held up his phone, the recording light still blinking. "You forgot to check for witnesses, Chief, and I don't go down quietly." Daniels' gun clattered to the ground as officers swarmed him. The corrupt empire he'd built crumbled in seconds. The next morning, Jason stood before a packed press conference, his badge gleaming under the lights. The city had turned out in force, reporters, community leaders, and officers who had once doubted him. "Corruption thrives in silence," Jason began, his voice strong. "But silence isn't an option, not when justice is at stake." The crowd erupted into applause, but Jason's focus remained clear. This wasn't just about Daniels, it was about the system, the prejudice, and the fight that still lay ahead. As he stepped away, Rachel approached him, a small smile on her face. "You did it." Jason shook his head. "We did it, and we're just getting started." "So let me ask you this. What would you have done if you were in Jason's shoes? Would you risk everything for the truth? Let us know in the comments below. And if this story inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of courage, justice, and resilience. Because sometimes the most powerful badge is the one that never wavers.